I'm running in the 7th Congressional District against freshman Democrat Ami Bera, a medical doctor and an apologist for Obamacare. So I like my odds.
Good. What area does the 7th represent? What part of California?
It's the suburban Sacramento area for the most part, just east of Sacramento.
So yeah, if you're solid, you should have a pretty good shot at that.
Yeah, this is one of the top 10 congressional races in the country that we hear about all the time now, the toss-up seats. And listen, Ami Bera does not fit the district, and he has been an unapologetic supporter of Obamacare. So that's just not playing anywhere right now.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's find out about you, and if people like you, let's hope you get elected. If they think you're doing a good job, or if you could do a good job. Tell us all about you. What's your background? Where are you from? Education, experiences, life. Who are you?
Yeah, economics and political science degree from UCLA. I spent 15 years at IBM doing cost and financial management, and I spent another 15 years. I founded and ran the government relations department at Autism Speaks, and I spent the last over a year of my life running against Dianne Feinstein here in California. I was the 2012 Republican nominee for Senate.
Now I remember your name. You actually did pretty well going up against Feinstein and an incumbent. What'd you get, 40?
That's right.
7%, 44?
Yeah, in a tough year for Republicans, 2012, as we all know. But, here's what I like to tell everybody about California. I know, believe me, the jokes about being on the far left coast, I get it. But 4.7 million people voted for me for U.S. Senate. That's more than any other Senate candidate in the country, including Ted Cruz. Now, obviously, it goes to the size of California, but the takeaway is there are conservatives in California, a significant number of us.
Yeah, I think people misunderstand. They think California is 90% progressive. It's not. It's like 48%. If you look at everybody, it's strategically placed where they're gonna win a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And look, we have to be clever and we have to be different on how we win elections here in California. And I'm committed to continuing to work on this. I have good name ID, which we all know it's important. California is a truly expensive media market, and you have to work here and you have to be persistent.
So if you ran for Senate before, you're running for the House now, it seems like you're pretty eager to go to Congress. Why? What drives you that says, I want that job?
Never wanted that job. And this is the problem right now. We've got a political system that doesn't really support anyone that isn't either a career politician or a multimillionaire. If you take somebody like me with both private sector and public sector business experience who wants to run for office, unless you can self-fund, it's a long-term project. But what caused me to jump into electoral politics was 2009 and Obama coming to and an all-Democratic Congress. We had the stimulus bill and Obamacare all within the first 6 to 9 months of his presidency. I think sometimes we forget just how aggressive he was. He and his administration were right off the bat.
So you were like a lot of us as soon as late 2008 and then early 2009, just frustrated daily. Is that what it was?
Well, I was running the government relations department. I have an extensive background in working on federal legislative issues. And I think the thing that caught my attention the most was the sheer incompetence that I was seeing. When it came to the stimulus bill, that was an $800 billion giveaway to what I viewed just as political payback for the most part. And that was within 3 months. And then Obamacare, to say that it's a bad bill is just such an understatement on so many different fronts. My concern was that I knew this train wreck was coming. I knew it in 2009. And I felt like a lone voice in the wilderness. Of course, there were more people talking about it, but the extent and how bad this was going to be, I thought I had got to get out there and just yell this as loud as I possibly can, because healthcare is my background.
It's funny, I lived through that time as well and was very frustrated, but my producer, Skip, and I have been working on a Tea Party documentary, so we've been doing a lot of research back through that period, and I forgot how quickly so many things came down. You had TARP, and then 4 months later under Obama's stimulus, they were virtually the same size, and it was within 4 months the U.S. government wasted almost $2 trillion. It was incredible.
It was incredible, and also in that time frame, Obama pushed climate change bill through the House of Representatives. Same time frame.
And then if you have the health care right, you're right, that was huge. So let me ask you this. We're speaking with Elizabeth Emken, who's running for California House of Representatives for U.S. House of Representatives, District 7. How long do you plan on serving? You say you don't like the career politicians. How long will you serve, if elected?
Well, I think when I look at my background, I had 2 different careers. They each lasted 15 years each. I cannot imagine. The people who have been back there 20, 30 years, when I was running against Feinstein, I mean, you can't make it up. When you look at characters like her who've just been there forever, and really, all they really value at that point is their seat in the dining room. And it's, look, I hate to say term limits because I'm a constitutional gal. I like to stick with what's been so successful. But where's the common sense of both the voters and the elected officials who know they're not being productive anymore?
So would you self-term limit?
I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the right amount of time is.
But, I mean, would you self-term limit? I mean, do you plan on being a 30-year?
Absolutely. First of all, I can't imagine. If I can't go back there and get what I want to get done in a reasonable amount of time, then time for me to hang it up. And I got to tell you, I don't know what that amount of time is, and I'll tell you why. Once again, it's the political system. They honor the seniority. How long will it take me to get the gavel at Energy and Commerce? I want to be the first female chair of Energy and Commerce. Because I know what to do. And there's a novel concept. Let's put people in charge who actually know how to fix things.
Well, I'll tell you what.
How long will that take? You tell me.
That's a good question. Let me do our lightning round here. I just go through a bunch of different issues, and you can tell me if you support it or do you support them. We'll go through about a half dozen or so. You can expound on them a little bit, but we'll keep them kind of brief here. The first one, you mentioned term limits. So, do you support term limits?
I would have to say I'm gonna stick with Constitution on that and say no, but we've got to figure out a way to self-impose term limits and voter-imposed term limits.
Okay, a flat or a fair tax? Do you support either a flat or a fair tax?
Modified flat tax, meaning I absolutely, I have a whole paper on this on my website, elizabethemken.com. Read my papers on all these issues, including tax reform. But what I'll tell you is I believe in a simpler tax code, flat tax, but I do believe we need to have some elements in there. If we're going to get rid of government out of our lives, in every corner of our lives, we're going to have to do something to change the way our entitlements roll out. I want to get this out of the government and into the public sector, and I have lots of ideas about that.
Okay, yeah, ElizabethMken.com. People can read about that and some other stuff. What about the Second Amendment? Are you a proud Second Amendment supporter?
I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. I have an AQ rating with the NRA. And by the way, in my primary, if you're in California, look at this primary. We have a Republican running who has a D rating with the NRA, and that's a voting record.
Wow.
So right now, that would, I don't know about you, you're out if you have you aren't supportive of the Second Amendment.
What about Common Core? What do you feel? Do you support Common Core?
Absolutely not. We have, and you know this, one overreach of the federal government after another right now. The list is so long, I can't fit them on my flyers. Seriously, the list is so long. Common Core, overreach of the federal government, no.
What about amnesty? Do you support amnesty for illegals?
Absolutely not. Once again, we talk about the conversation that just jumps the shark all the time. Look, we are the strongest country in the history of the world. We absolutely can secure our borders. That's first. Nothing else should be discussed until we secure our borders.
What about a balanced budget amendment if it was written properly so they couldn't just raise taxes in order to balance it? Do you support that?
Such a big if. That's the problem. Such a big if. I'm absolutely in favor of a balanced budget, but what I'll tell you right now is we're fighting this fight at the wrong front in the fight of our debt that's just strangling our kids' futures. We have to fight the debt in the authorization process. We always wait till the horse is out of the barn and try to fight it at appropriations. We need to back it up, fight it at authorization, and quit authorizing these programs.
That's a great point. All right, and finally, TARP, the auto or bank bailouts. Did you support any of those?
Well, I wasn't even running at the time.
But I mean,
I think TARP is an interesting. When you look at that, when you look at TARP on the whole, we've got our money back and then some. We never should have got in that situation to begin with. So it's always economists, and by the way, I'm an economist. The economists differ 50-50 down the line on this. What would have happened? What I do believe is there should have been real punishment is the only word I can come up with at 5:30 in the morning, but there should have been real consequences. That's what I'm looking for these private banks that got themselves into this. I don't think they were adequately punished. So I do think that there was a need to step in. What I don't believe was done well is they could have spent one more day, 2 more days, making sure that these private groups were so disincented from ever doing this again in the future. It would have been financially painful for them for decades.
All right, it's Elizabeth Emken, E-M-K-E-N. Is that right? E-M-K-E-N?
That's exactly right. And I hope your listeners will go on my website, check it out, throw me a few bucks. As everybody knows, it takes money to run these races.
I love the way you put that. ElizabethEmken.com. People can check it out, and I'll tweet it out so people can get the information as well, all right?
Great. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot. Elizabeth Emken running for California's the District 7 for the House of Representatives in D.C. I'll tweet that out. Send me a couple bucks.
I need some money.
By the way, if you're sending, go ahead and send me and Skip a couple of bucks. Go ahead and flip me a couple. That's fine.
So she's going to be holding up a sign that says, "We'll campaign for money."
Tell us what you've learned today. Use the hashtag #WhatILearned today. This is the Morning Blaze.